You know, we live in this amazing age of tools, right? Especially with AI. So whenever we run into a problem, our first instinct is almost always, what can I build to solve this? But what if that's the wrong question to ask first? What if the best solution isn't some new tool at all, but just a better question? So get this. I was sitting in a clinic waiting room the other day, and I was getting so frustrated with how long it was taking, and my brain immediately just snapped into engineering mode. I started thinking, I could build a system for this, a simple check-in app, maybe use some AI to predict wait times based on patient flow. I was literally sketching out Python code in my head, just a little script to track check-in times, flag patients who've been waiting too long. It felt super productive, like I was tackling the problem head-on with my skills. And that right there, that's the tool-first mindset in action.
But then I just stopped for a second. I realized I was designing this whole complex solution for the entire clinic's operational problems. But my actual problem, it wasn't fixing their system. My problem was way, way smaller. I just wanted to know how much longer I had to wait.
So instead of building an app, I just walked up to the front desk and asked a really simple question. Hi, just wondering, how many people are ahead of me right now? And of course, the receptionist knew the answer instantly. The problem wasn't a lack of technology at all. It was just a lack of asking for simple information. And this little personal moment, it's actually a perfect miniature of a massive trend that's happening in tech right now.
See, my instinct to over-engineer a personal problem, well, that's playing out at a global scale in software development, and it's being supercharged by AI. We are creating a tidal wave of what's called technical debt.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The API evangelist Kin Lane puts it perfectly with this quote. I mean, with AI coding assistance, it has never ever been easier to just generate code. But easier doesn't always mean better. In fact, it's leading to some pretty worrying trends.
Okay, now this slide is really telling because it shows us the actual data from GitClear. If you look at the bar on the left, you see moved lines. That's a sign of good practice, right? It means you're reusing existing code. The data shows that's going down. Meanwhile, look at the bar on the right. Copy-pasted lines are going up. We're just creating more and more redundant code instead of consolidating it, all because it's so easy for an AI to just spit out a new block of code from scratch.
And here is the absolutely crucial point. AI tools have a very narrow context window. They are fantastic at solving the small, immediate problem you give them, but they have zero understanding of the larger system. It still takes a human to see that bigger picture, to refactor things, and to prevent the whole code base from becoming this unmaintainable mess.
So why do we do this? Why do we instinctively jump to the most complex, tool-based solution we can think of? Well, it often comes down to two different mindsets that are super common among engineers. Are you a builder, or are you a problem solver? This is a question you should really ask yourself. Are you driven more by the pure joy of creating something new, or by the logical satisfaction of finding the absolute most efficient solution? This distinction can tell you a whole lot about your own tendencies. So on one side, you have the builder. These are the people who love the process of creation, exploring new ideas, the whole startup vibe. They see a problem and immediately think, what new, cool thing can I build? Then on the other side, you have the problem solver. They're all about logic, refinement, mastering a challenge. They see a problem and look for the most elegant, direct path to a solution.
Let's look at a classic software example to make this real. Imagine you have a tree widget, but it's displaying information wrong because of some method deep inside that you're not allowed to change. How do you fix it?
A builder's mind might immediately jump to a really sophisticated textbook design pattern. They'd create this flexible, robust wrapper around the original object. It's a classic solution for sure, but it also means writing over 50 lines of code. It's a beautiful but complex piece of engineering. The problem solver, on the other hand, might see a shortcut. They'd create a tiny new class that just takes the object and has one single method to display the correct info. Boom! Done in less than 10 lines of code. It's not as by the book, maybe, but it solves the exact problem at hand with maximum efficiency and minimum complexity. Okay, so this tension between building and problem solving is becoming even more critical now in the age of AI. So let's look at what developers who are actually using these tools every single day are saying. The consensus from developers is pretty clear. AI is an assistant. It's a sidekick. It is not a solo coder. It makes logic mistakes, it hallucinates things, and as one developer put it, it tends to over-engineer a lot. Without a human in the loop who actually understands the code and the bigger picture, you get stuck, and you get stuck fast.
And this whole principle of asking the right question before you even think about the tool, it extends far beyond software. Let's look at a totally different field to see how this plays out.
So what you're looking at here is the gold standard for motion capture in biomechanics. It uses a dozen cameras, dozens of these little reflective markers. It tracks movement with incredible precision. It's amazing for, say, sports science research, but it's also insanely expensive, complex, and requires a dedicated lab.
But what if your question isn't about millimeter-perfect accuracy for an elite athlete? What if your question is, how can we quickly assess a patient's recovery in a small rural clinic? Well, the priorities change completely, don't they? You need speed, you need portability, and you need low cost. All of a sudden, a simple video camera on a laptop, even though it's less precise, becomes the better tool. It's the good enough solution that actually solves the real-world problem.
So all of this leads to a really powerful mental model for how we should approach problems, especially now, in an age of infinitely powerful tools. It's really about putting the horse back in front of the cart.
Before you write a single prompt, before you design a single component, you have to have absolute clarity on the problem you are actually trying to solve. Not the problem you could solve, but the one you need to solve.
Because AI is an amplifier. That's what it is. If you point it at a clearly defined problem, it will amplify your ability to solve it. But if you point it at confusion, it will only amplify that confusion, creating a bigger, faster, more complicated mess.
So, the next time you face a challenge, whether you're in a waiting room or standing at a whiteboard, just take a second, pause that builder in your head, and ask yourself, is there a simpler question I could be asking here? What problem am I oversolving today?